Anni, I've heard a lot about you, and I have a list of politicians around the world that I've always said, oh, I would vote for them if I lived there. It's a very short list. but from what I've heard so far about the bike riding poet politician, well, two of those things are interesting to me. The politics, maybe not, but I've been looking forward to meeting you. So it's super cool.
Great meeting you.
Yeah.
Nice that you're here.
And this building, I've just been Instagramming like this. I have this erotic relationship with this her, him, they building. It's so amazing to sit here in this public space of this library. When did this open?
It opened in December 2018. So it managed to have its really life starting before the pandemic, which was great. Mm-hmm. And I think I have seldom seen when something new opens that people find it so quickly and start to love it so quickly, and sort of asking each other that, what did we actually do when we didn't have the library? Yeah. So in that sense, really Helsinki people have fallen in love with it.
I mean, I don't even know what it is. I know it's a library, but it doesn't feel like a library. There's a cafe, but it doesn't feel like a cafe. It just feels like this amazing indoor public space. You know, I was told I could film anywhere I wanted except in the kids department. Fair enough. You know, and you can sit and do whatever you want. You can have meetings. You know. Yeah. And I mean, just all the facilities. So it just really, it's just this really odd, amazingly odd place. And you know, architecturally, it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, other architects who won the competition when it was organized, it was their breakthrough, really. So I think they have also put their heart into the building and even to the building process. It was meant, it is a library, but from the beginning it was meant to be like something broad, like really a huge indoor public space. Mm-hmm. And that's why there are sewing machines or possibilities to do 3D printing or play PlayStation if your parents do not afford to have a perhaps PlayStation. Yeah. So as a child you can come here and practice playing. So it was meant to be like a place where really many things can be done. Third floor is for books, but the idea, I think, in the end it's the same, that it's something that we share together. Mm-hmm. Like books in the library, we share them, so there are just other functions that we share as well.
So I'm curious to hear, like, being one of the politicians I've heard so many good things about, like just generally, what is your vision for Helsinki? Like, why did you get into municipal politics? You did it because you had a vision, and you know, as a citizen as well. So how do you sum up your general vision for where you want Helsinki to go?
I have this feeling that few places have so good possibilities of showing in practice how to combine ambitious reaction targets to climate crisis with good life and equality. And I think that, of course, that is something that Helsinki citizens, I think, deserve. But also I think that if we can show that this kind of city can be built and we can share it with other people, that how you do it, it's something that we can also be of inspiration to others and have a dialogue and of course learn from others as well. Mm. But to combine this kind of city life where equality is a value but life is nice and good and still you are strict with environment. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a Nordic city. So we have many things, you know, in common when you come from Copenhagen or Stockholm or Oslo. But do you feel like the Nordic lifestyle, the Nordic model that we all try to, you know, improve upon? You guys are better in education, maybe we're better in something. You know what I mean? But we all seem to have this shared goals. Is that something that you think about in when you try to describe your vision? Is it a very Nordic thing?
I think it is, and I think that it is important for Helsinki to have this community of Nordic capitals, Nordic cities, and during the years there have been a lot of things that we have been learning. I actually have spent now 2 days listening quite much to people from Copenhagen and Amsterdam talking about bicycle infra. Also I think sometimes in Helsinki we follow what Copenhagen or Stockholm do regarding marketing, because I think sometimes we have not been as strong. And marketing as such, I think it's not an end target. But of course, if you do something well, it's worth doing things so that people are interested in you. And that I think we have tried to learn from other Nordic capitals. But then I think of course the deeper question perhaps is that we have succeeded quite well in equality, and for cities that are from more far, it seems perhaps to them that, okay, but you are Nordic cities, like what we have, can we learn anything? Your model is so much more advanced or something. And I think it's important also to go deep down and see those places where perhaps like ethnic differences actually are handled better than in our cities, because I think in all of our cities there are quite much hierarchies and unwritten rules that who enters what circles. So I think, for example, in that sense, we all have something to learn from places where diversity is, they have been thinking of it more.
I think also, maybe the Nordic model. Yeah, we're never going to have that in our country. And then so we don't need to have anything from the Nordics. But I mean, yeah, you can still have good public space, good bicycle infrastructure, environmental, systems, district heating, all the things we have. I mean, there's things you can take, and we can also absolutely take things from the rest of the world, as you say. But I mean, it's just like, it seems like, the Nordics, people are just like, we'll never be that, so we won't even try. I can't dress like that. Yeah, but you could buy the shoes. I just find it interesting. So marketing, the algorithms seem to know that I was coming to Helsinki, because all of a sudden my Instagram ads, and there's all these beautiful photos, and I think you've taken the marketing to the next level. I haven't seen that kind of level of marketing coming out of Copenhagen, a little bit, but it's still kind of, it's just, here's more lifestyle and more like, this is just a good place to live and to be and to visit, where, I think you nailed it in a way. If looking at my phone as an indicator.
I think that we were quite a long time lagging behind, and past 4 or 5 years it has been something that we have put effort in, and people who have been doing it are really talented. And I think also the philosophy that we have had, that it's that it quite much we have invited people who live here to tell what they actually love in the city and what are their favorite cafes or favorite vegetarian restaurants or swimming places. And that has been a good thing, because we didn't want to market for tourists, but actually also help citizens to explore the city better. And I think that is a good philosophy, because we have also followed places where in a way you can see that you have too much tourism, that it's overcrowded, and then actually people who live there are like, the rental prices go too high up because of Airbnb, or that no one understands where there is a bicycle lane because everyone is here for the first day in the city. So we have also we have wanted to attract more people to visit to Helsinki, but we have wanted to do it perhaps in a way that would be a bit slower and perhaps attract people who would come a bit longer time and really enjoy the city, and not like, okay, we want everyone to stop for 24 hours and then leave.
Yeah, I mean, the My Helsinki on Instagram, they curate it. So, I might get my post, what I mean? But as you said, the locals, it's not just the glossy marketing. It's like, here's a little community event, boom, and then they'll borrow that and put it on there. I think that's really cool. I was talking to a friend of mine from the city, Oskari, and we had another podcast interview, but he was saying, there's a slogan, kind of a goal in Helsinki to be the world's most functional city. And I laughed, because when you think about marketing, it's like, the city of lights, Paris, all of it. And then we got to tease each other in the Nordics. It sounds so Finnish, the world's most functional city as a goal, right? But I mean, in a way, but then as a Nordic, I'm going, that's total, I get that. But it's still kind of funny as a slogan, right? But does it function, do you think, Helsinki?
Well, I think, it was certainly not my slogan. So I've had sometimes difficult relationship with it, but I think where it has been good is that it has challenged us to think actually that the questions that go quite into the everyday life and the comforts of everyday life of people who live here. So in a way, I think that it's, as odd as it sounds, it has also put some ambition to everyone's action in the city, that if we want the city to function for people who live here, it actually means that we have to do our job really quite well. That if we have a construction site on the street that digs the street open, actually you have to think that someone who passes the construction site, he or she should find a way, walking, cycling, by car, where actually to go, and things, quite ordinary things like that. But still, I think now that we are in a period of starting to form the new city strategy, which is always in Finland, it's done every council period. So I think that we will save the functionality as a method and as a goal that challenges us to do things with quality and from the citizens' perspective. But I think we will also choose perhaps something that has a bit more romanticism in it, or perhaps some hope also, because the pandemic has been so heavy for cities that we now need something that gives us sort of perhaps a bit more hope and light.
I remember I came here first in 1990. I was actually traveling and also weirdly living in the Soviet Union, long story, for a bottle of wine. But I came to Helsinki for the first time. And back in 1990, it wasn't a big jump from Russia to Helsinki.
Yeah.
It was really weird. And now you come here and it's like, it's light years from Russia. It feels like I'm coming to a Nordic brother or sister city, right? Like it feels much closer to the Nordics just in the last 25 or so years. I find that to be an interesting transformation. You've always been influenced by both, I know, historically and culturally, but...
Yes, and I would say that, of course, historically, the period of Soviet Union, that there were ties, and, well, I think politically we were perhaps sometimes too close. Well, I've written actually a poem that mentions that in the early phases. It's a text about early phases of the transformation. That exactly says that before the whole place was akin to something in Soviet Union. And I think that, well, it shows, I think the transformation, it has, I think there has been different levels that have influenced it, certainly joining the European Union. Then it just urbanist policies, my own party, I think, has played a big role in that as well. And I think in the end, when the transformation started to happen so that people themselves felt that they have more power or influence or more space to do things, like the restaurant day that started that, okay, you won't obey all the rules of sanitation of a permanent restaurant, that people just open one particular day, they open their own smallish one-day restaurants and things like that. I think that when you get that rolling, that people feel that the city is for them really, then there's no end of the transformation in a way.
I mean, you know better than me, but I mean, it seems like, for me, historically for a long time, you're kind of going, okay, yeah, there's Russia. Oh, and there's the Nordics and there's Europe, but and then you finally decide where we're going to look, where we're going to focus, and it's sort of maybe you focus more on the Nordics. I mean, architecturally, it's Russian, it's Finnish, it's like the whole, it's always wonderful to walk through the streets, but I don't know, it's like you just kind of went, okay, which team are we going with here? Put on the football shirt, right? Yeah.
And I think it was certainly, in a way, a political choice that was made, and there I symbolically, I think, although it was very practical, of course, that the decision to join the European Union was the choice to say that, okay, this is the direction where we look at now. And I think it was a wise decision, certainly.
So more specifically, I come from a city that's been, banging the drums for years about being the world's first carbon neutral capital. That's marketing from the city of Copenhagen. I've been very critical of it because I really actually read the report and cars are going to increase, but we'll build a wind farm off the coast. We'll just compensate for that. Like there's no political vision for actually removing the cars in Copenhagen, another thing. So you guys have a similar vision that you're talking about, becoming carbon neutral by 2035, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you please tell me it's better than ours in Copenhagen? I mean, can you describe what are the goals?
Carbon neutrality for us means inside the Helsinki emissions will have to decrease by 80% from the 1990 level. So for compensation, that leaves 20%. And I believe in Copenhagen, the compensation part, at least at some point, has been bigger. now that we're discussing the new strategy, I can say that my goals for the new strategy would be that we would make the carbon neutrality, so the minus 80% emission reductions, that we would make it earlier, so that would be 2030. And then also I think what would be really important for actually every city to have the zero emissions goal, because it's technically possible that you don't have to compensate, but that you really go for the zero emissions. And I think that 2040 would be an appropriate year. For us, it would mean mainly two things, I think, that we would get rid of all of the natural gas. After we still have some coal, but after that it's not only the coal that needs to be phased out, but natural gas as well, and then it's transport. By the 2040, well, hopefully, sometimes transformations are faster, there would be no emissions from the transport anymore. And then third thing, of course, it touches on building things and concrete, so there's something. But I think I would say, as a recommendation, at least for every city, to have the zero emission goal, that would be a real city's own zero emission goal that would take care of that you cannot like buy the compensation somewhere else.
I mean, carbon neutrality sounds like spin when you hear it. You know, it's just like, what does it mean to be neutral? You know, like exactly like building a wind farm to compensate for the inevitable rise of the automobile. And this is literally in the report. But one thing I've been very critical about in the Copenhagen spin is, renewable energy, phasing out coal, yes. And yes, we're a good wind country, as we know. But then you read it's all biomass. And like, there's a lot of spin from that industry about, it's renewable. Trees just grow again, so we'll just keep cutting them down. And we're already seeing like a lot of chaos. But I was looking, researching a bit about Helsinki, and it seems like you are not putting all of your, eggs in the biomass basket like Copenhagen seems to be doing. It seems like everything is about, wood chips and burning. And that's where I'm going, what? That's not, that's, how can you spin that as green? But please tell me it's better here.
I think you are exactly right. I think in a way we have now an advantage that comes out of us being somewhat lousy before, because we procrastinated with the coal question. And while we procrastinated, we understood it better, and of course the whole discussion and even scientific evidence understood it better, that biomass has a lot of problems, and actually it can be a source of fairly big amount of emissions. So now we found the window to put the target so that when we will phase out coal latest by 2029, probably earlier, but we have formulated it so that we will not replace it mainly by biomass. Actually, no new investment on biomass will be done. So we have to find the ways, especially to take care of the heating without burning anything. And I think that Copenhagen and Stockholm, that were sort of have been ahead of us in reducing the emissions, but since they did it before, there was not perhaps full understanding of all the emissions that are tied to forestry and to heavy land use that is part of the such forestry that also then feeds the burning biomass for heating. But I think that we organized, our former mayor was active, I think it was really a good project, that we organized an international challenge, energy challenge, where the aim was exactly to solve the heating question without burning anything. Right. And I think we didn't really find a sort of type of this is a pharmacy and this is exactly the right medicine for you, but we got really interesting proposals, and we are now working on them. And that is certainly something that we will be really keen to spread when we get a bit further, that how actually you solve this question. Because I'm positive that it, like the German discussion, that okay, then it's natural gas. No, you cannot have by 2040 you cannot have natural gas, and I think biomass, it will happen that actually there will be times when we are phasing out biomass as well.
Yeah, I mean, but then you think, why do we even start? If we already kind of know a lot, I mean, there's like an Estonian forestry magnate. There's like you know, a guy buying up forests and chopping them down because there's a market all of a sudden. So he just saw that opportunity. A lot of the wood chip biomass in Copenhagen comes from like Canada and America and Russia, where we don't even know what they're doing, you know.
Yeah.
But shipping it all the way from Canada and Russia, when you know we have the sun, we have wind, we have other solutions that we can scale up or think differently about, right? So,
but yeah, I think in sort of in a nutshell, it's good to be quite critical towards biomass as a big scale solution hitting cities.
Yeah. Now you were in national politics,
yeah,
and now you're in municipal politics. What do you prefer?
Well, I would say, yeah, municipal politics. But of course, it's a journey that you don't know. Many people like start in the municipal politics and they want to jump to the national level. But I did it another way around. And I was a member of parliament for almost 16 years. So I basically spent my early adulthood there. So I think 16 years of anything, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really good time perhaps to go to change the perspective. And since in national politics you always have the government and opposition, and there has been the rise of sort of extreme right-wing or populist right-wing politics, and sometimes, of course, I'm looking a bit from the outside, that it seems that it's so hard to find any solution to anything, that quite often the discussions of reforms and changes are somewhat endless in the national politics. And what I enjoy in the city level is that actually we get things done. And of course it's because of the voters. Many people have chosen to live to Helsinki, so it's like perhaps although parties have big differences, but it's still that it feels that we share the same city and we share mostly the same reality. So at least for now, I prefer the city level.
Yeah.
I enjoy the thing that you actually, because it's also more concrete, that legislation, how it affects, it's a bit like a slower process, but here if we decide upon a tram line and then you see it being built and then you feel it yourself, that how it improves the public transport, that is enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, like people have always said, "Oh, you should go into municipal politics, Michael." Like, I'm going, no way, I can't do meetings, and municipal coffee is always the worst, right? But I mean, you know, I like the democracy I live in, but you know, I literally don't know who my MP is, and I'm very politically engaged. I literally don't know who it is. I think it's from one of the parties I voted for. Fine, but municipal politics, you know, where I live in Copenhagen, in Frederiksberg, you know, I can see like the politician on the street. You know, hey, I gotta talk to you. Or the local newspapers are always, you know, that's where the citizens are actually vocal, where we feel like we have an influence. And yeah, you share a street with your neighbors, and you know, for me, it's always been it's so much more interesting municipal politics because it affects my daily life. Where I don't, the policies in the national government affect my life in some way. I don't really think about it, but like what the mayor just did on my street, okay, I have an opinion. You know what I mean? It's much more, you know, more contact between the politicians and the people. Yeah.
And in Finland, municipalities actually have quite a lot of responsibilities, so it is really quite broad, and it is quite concrete. And also, I think that, and there's a lot of interaction, and more on practical matters than ideological in a sense. And of course, since I did national politics, and sometimes the climate policies were so hard to achieve because there's so much. Although everyone sort of says that it's important, but every measure you actually want to take, it's quite hard. So for me, it's been a joy to see that actually on a city level, you can have ambitious goals and sort of execute them. And in Finland, for example, now the national government has the target of Finland being carbon neutral by 2035. But I think they also dared to have it because so many municipalities had ambitious emission reduction goals. So in a way it put pressure also to the national government.
Now, I've spoken with a couple of guys about cycling in Helsinki. I've also, because of what I've been doing for 15 years, and that's also kind of maybe too much where it's time to do other stuff. But yeah, you know, following what Helsinki's doing and looking at the infrastructure and whatnot. So one thing that I kind of wonder about with your visions and the goals of Helsinki is, why do you still have e-scooters? When you look at Copenhagen, they had policy from January, they're gone. There's a few, I see 4 a day, and they're privately owned, right? Paris, I've been just working in Paris, talking to the vice mayor of Paris, and he's going, yeah, we've really tried to, you know, legislate them to make them more difficult to use, where you have to put them into a parking station, kind of kill the concept without just banning them. But here, you come out of the train station and you're tripping over them, and people are like, you know, zigzagging down the cobblestones. I mean, how does it? I don't get it. As a green politician, a person with a vision of a more bicycle-friendly city, a cyclist, how come you have so many? Like, why? Well, you got to explain it.
Well, I think we're in the middle of the discussions at the moment. In Finland, there's no such thing as city legislation in these matters. So. Basically, the national legislation is really liberal towards them. And so it's a bit a question that is there actually anything that the city can rule or outrule? The current Minister of Transport, who was not responsible for the liberal legislation, has also now been active, and we have been having talks with the companies and with the city and with the ministry. Perhaps more like a voluntary regulation. And the things that are now under discussion mainly is whether they should stop giving them to use by nighttime, because the one thing is that people drive them drunk and get injuries that can be really harmful for a person's life, and also it's quite a big healthcare burden that people really hurt themselves. And the second thing that is actively under discussion would be to lower down the places where you can actually park them, that you would not be allowed to park them as you are now. So those are the things that are now under discussion, how to restrict the use of them. Yeah,
that's what happened in Copenhagen. They legislated that you weren't allowed to use them while you were drunk. So you had to blow. Like, weirdly, in Denmark, you can ride a bike without, there's no restriction to that with alcohol, but like they put it onto that. So the police started going after them in that period. And that also is like word of mouth. Oh God, if you ride it at night, the police will give you a ticket, you know. And then they also said they'll still be around, but you have to rent them from a shop, like a kiosk or a bike shop. The bike shops don't want them. They want people. And then you have to deliver it back A to A. That completely kills the concept of finding one on the street. Because the idea is that in a way they just kind of faded away. It's so nice to be in Copenhagen now.
and here also the police has been sort of one thing that people really hate is that people use sidewalks with the e-scooters, because in the city center we have mostly cobblestone on the car lanes. So, and it's really uncomfortable to ride them. So that's why people jump to the sidewalk to use them. And now the police has also tried to be active. I think in a way, in the Finnish legislation, it's that you cannot be so drunk that you endanger others. So police can also, although there's not as strict rule for the promilles, but I think police can still stop you and say that you are not allowed to drive because you are a danger to others or to yourself.
That's the weird law in Denmark for bikes, is you have to be able to operate a bicycle in a satisfactory manner. But that's like a judgment call from that cop who, really? What is satisfactory?
Well, sometimes it's clear, but there can be perhaps situations that are borderlining.
On my Insta today, I posted these maps that Marek found in the archives from 1934, where there was a bicycle count, like in red pen. And there are many, many streets with 10,000 cyclists a day in 1934 in what was a poor working class, harbor city. And then there's another map with where all your infrastructure was. This really great network of Copenhagen style, unidirectional, where you copy pasted that, from Denmark, I'm sure. And it looks better than the network. Maybe the network today is getting there now. But when you're a cyclist, right? So I see the unidirectional in Helsinki, which is best practice. Some of it's older, I know, but and then you have on the street here behind Udi, the library. There's like a bidirectional on one side of the street. It's like Helsinki can't figure out, are we going to do the one design or both, because you can't mix them. It's like oil and water, right?
Yeah, the unidirectional is the goal where we are going, but
is it like a political goal?
Okay. And also the national legislation that before it didn't back it so much, but now it actually backs. But I think the situation is, since we somewhat have the bidirectional and the unidirectional is somewhat new for people, it's not in their sort of backbone. So I think that we have to build and also push the rules and change the culture for people to understand the unidirectional, and of course it means also that you really build the infra according to that. But it's the direction where we are going.
Okay, good, because I mean, we're design countries, right? Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Norway. I mean, it's like there's design for this. It's from 1915 in Copenhagen. That's when we first separated the bikes physically from motorized traffic and horses back then, and pedestrians. We did that design, and it just sort of, you copied it here. The English started building it all over the world. And we kind of tested it for a while, 125 years, 120 years. So yeah, that just kind of bugs me that you got that mix. You're a design nation. So I'm glad to hear that there's a political vision.
Yeah.
What cities do you, as a politician, do you look to for inspiration regarding their politics, regarding their citizen engagement, whatever? I mean, there's got to be. Everybody has cities that go, they're doing some really cool stuff over there. Like, and people look at us and say the same. But what do you look for? Where do you look for inspiration?
I think many different directions. Well, I think that one thing that has been really surprising, and I think that is something that where we could learn things, because we are fairly slow. It has its good sides as well, in a way, to do things thoroughly, but the speed with which Paris has transformed regarding traffic, that it just feels that, oh my God, that if we could sometimes be a bit faster and have changes done in such a speed, that is something that I really look up. Then I think that I look to US not in the sense that their cities they have tremendous problems in their city planning, general planning, the whole role of the car, but perhaps in a way the sort of strength and then engagement that I think Americans somehow they understand really well how to invite people to discuss, but at the same time have will to enforce things. And of course, one person that I have admired really a lot has been Janet Sadiq-Khan, who used to be the transport commissioner for Michael Bloomberg, and although, well, it's a different party than mine and probably not the party that I would vote in the United States, but that administration and how she has written about how changes were done has been, for me personally, a big inspiration and consolation also during some difficult times to read that others have gone through that as well. So then I have a personal thing which is a bit different, that my husband is half Italian, half Finnish, and he grew up in Rome. And Rome, it's certainly, they actually are lagging horribly behind many things, but still it's a place where I go because his mother lives there, and I still look at the thing that they have way too many cars, and their organization of the space for cars is horrible, but there are still some things how to actually live the urban life, that even if you have a sort of smallest place for something, they actually gather. And and sometimes I just compare that, okay, this is how you get if you have too many cars. It's sort of a opposition type of learning process. But I still, of course, since I go there, I try to one way or another learn from Rome and some other Italian places as well.
Yeah, like urban life despite the raging of the machines. But yeah, for me, one of the episodes of The Life-Size City was in Milan, and I didn't know anything about Milan. I had been there 2 days my entire life, and we went there and filmed an entire episode, but that's the citizen engagement, or rather, you guys can just do stuff. Okay, you want to do like a breakfast with your neighbors in that neighborhood on the square, and you don't have a permit? Fine, just do it. And then Milan kind of watches and says, actually, that's pretty cool. Maybe we can, legitimize it and make it something in all the neighborhoods. They just sort of let people do whatever they want in a way.
Yeah.
They allow for it, and then they sit and watch. They kind of respect the fact that the citizens probably have better ideas. But then they go in and say, cool, thank you for that. Let's do that. Let's make it a policy.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, despite the car culture in Italy and whatnot.
And Milan also, I think that they, of course, the pandemic has been really tragical for them, since they've been completely in the middle of the worst region in Italy. But they also acted really fast regarding the space distribution during the pandemic. So I actually visited Milan like summer 19, and now I've been following it, and I know the person who's deputy mayor for urban planning, Pier Francesco Maran, and followed their action through that, and also Mayor Sala followed. And so they have really like introduced cycling lanes, new terraces. So they also did absolutely everything that you could to improve people's life in the difficult situation. And of course now it seems that many of the solutions where they took more space for bikes, for example, that they will make it permanent. So that is also really, I think Milan is an interesting example. And of course they have also been investing in public transport, that they have extended their metro network, for example, which I think that is a respectable thing. And they have those projects have not been like completely like 10 years or something, but they have been quite efficient with it. Well, and it's also that in Italy, of course, you get everything and you get different things if you compare south or north.
But I like Milan last year, like the first movers, Paris, Berlin, and Milan regarding temporary bike lanes. Milan was going, hey, these aren't temporary, by the way. These are going to be permanent. This is our window of opportunity. So Paris can call them temporary, Berlin, Toronto, whatever. Now this is going to be part of our master plan. Now Paris is also making them permanent in many places. I mean, you can't even keep track of Paris. Like, I've been there 3 times this spring working and meeting the vice mayor, David Belliard, and just hearing him, and then you leave, and the week later it's like, no cars in this city center. Like, that's the new one. I think it's from September or something. Just like massive. Like, nobody else is doing that kind of stuff on that scale and that fast, as you said.
It's amazing, and still, like, I remember, I think I first went to Paris like 1994, and it was like a dream for me that Paris, it's really something. And of course it was dreamlike and really beautiful, but it was really a city for cars in many ways. And like Rue de Rivoli or something that and of course it's much shorter time than from 94 to now, but it's a really short period, so it's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And then pedestrian streets around the canals. This is one of Anne Hidalgo's election promises, and they actually did it this like in September, I think, last year. So all the canals, it's just walking streets, like there's no car, or I think cars can go through if you live there. But like I sat there drinking wine for a few hours earlier this spring, and there was like 3 cars, and people are going, car. Like, it was packed with people, and everybody's going, wow, a car. So that's pretty cool. But do you think, now you're very Finnish in Finland, interestingly enough. Do you do and modest, and humble, as Finns, and taking things slow, and collective decision making, and not so quick. But do you feel a leadership role, you personally, but also you as Helsinki, for other cities? You're saying people can learn from us, but I mean, do you feel like a kind of not a bad weight on your shoulders, but like kind of like we got some visionary policies that really every city should have? Do you feel like you should step into some bigger shoes and be the proud city that says, come to us and learn? Like Copenhagen is all bravado, a lot of it, right? Oh yeah, we're Copenhagen, we're cool, come and learn. And you guys are very different cultures. So I don't know if you feel like there's that you need to step into a global leadership role as a capital city.
I think so, and I think the only possibility probably is to do a bit in a Finnish way, because you cannot completely change such mentality issues. But I think that for many reasons, I think we should. First of all, for our own benefit, because when you are in that role, in a way you get more engagement and you actually all the time learn. then I feel personally that it's a good way to challenge yourself, that when you are, and well, sometimes it's also a good way to uplift your spirits and see what you have achieved, two things at the same time. That sometimes when you really think that how I explain what we have done to others, you can have this feeling that, actually quite great things. Like, yeah, that, hey, we're doing well.
Yeah.
Because in your everyday duties, you are just thinking of, okay, we should improve that. There we didn't achieve the target. But of course also that when you think in the engagement of others, you also see these things that, oh my God, how slow we are. That in a way it also boosts you up. And certain things, I think that the strengths where I would like to see us to inspire others or have discussions how to do it, I think equal housing policies, that is something we have been good at. We have been able to reduce the homelessness, the prices on housing, although they have gone up, not as fast as in Stockholm or as in Copenhagen. We are really strict when building new areas, that it's regulated rental, more expensive flats that you buy, co-ownership. So it's really that we're really careful to do the social mix and not just new places for those who can afford it. Then I would say that education, there are strengths that, and also the equality. I think Copenhagen is doing many things the similar way, but there are really many places where the segregation of the schools is really a big thing. And certainly I think that how to resolve questions of city heating without burning things, that is something. So there are themes where I think we're strong, and I don't believe that we could go around the world saying these specific themes, but it's more, in the end, it's more like Helsinki is place worth looking at as a whole, as something tempting, and then those who are interested in more specific goals would get into the dialogue with us.
You can go shopping and you can maybe take some of the things that you need, and maybe it'll work where you're from. But generally, I think for me, Copenhagen, Stockholm, we're never gonna be friends. It's always like fighting to be the queen of Scandinavia, right? But I mean, I think Helsinki is. I mean, for years it's been so interesting to watch, and I think you should be the leader, and I think you are well on the way to doing it. So
that's great to hear.
Yeah, but Anni, thank you for your time. I think we're gonna meet again, well, in this trip. But for now, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cool.